pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all.
Sorry for being tardy. Mr. Carmelo just need to stop talking. At this time, it is our public input on agenda and non-agenda items. I welcome any members of the audience to speak at this time. Members of the public in attendance at this meeting are provided with an opportunity to address the Board of Education to comment about this agenda or operations within the school district. Due to time constraints, we cannot respond during the public comment period. Comments may be recorded and responded to by the Board of Education or superintendent at a later date. Comments related to a specific personnel matter or to a student will not be allowed to be made during the public comment period. The board expects members of the public to speak in a respectful and courteous manner. We ask that all persons keep their comments to 5 minutes or less. If anyone would like to speak, come on up and tell us who you are. Introduce yourselves.
I'm Lily Ashline. I'm Nora Miller.
I'm Val Mady.
I'm Gianna Barron. And I'm Tyler Walker. We're all seniors at Troy High. I'm here on behalf of our senior class. The last few years, graduation has been held on the football field, and last year it was switched back to Hudson Valley. Since it's doable at both locations, we decided to ask the seniors where they prefer graduation was held this year. We posted a survey in the class of 2035 Google Classroom, which was accessible to all 217 seniors. Around 150 responded, and almost 70% of them voted for it to happen on the football field.
We understand that there are a lot of factors that go into the decision-making where graduation is held. However, we can't put a price tag on the experience for us seniors. With construction that was soon taking place, we understand that it can raise a lot of concerns for parking. However, all the students and staff are aware of the parking situation, and it will be different for the rest of the year, so why not plan now?
One of the major factors in the decision is also weather. We know that it can rain or be humid during the ceremony. However, we believe it's what you make of it. Many people have major events in their lives, such as weddings and bad weather, and they still celebrate regardless and don't let the weather ruin their memories.
Many of the students said that having graduation on the football field is more sentimental to them and is a special way to close out our time here at Troy High. We hope that you all will take this into consideration and allow our graduation to be on the football field. We understand that the decision may not be one the majority of the classes will take. However, something that Troy High has taught us is to always advocate for ourselves and others on something that we collectively feel strong about. We'd like to thank you for your time and hope you have a beautiful rest of your day.
You don't want to talk? I'm a muscle.
Leave your names with the board clerk, okay? Thank you for being
Great
here.
job.
Right on. Thank you. If anybody would like to follow that act, there.
Yeah.
Mr. DeNovo, go ahead.
Okay. All accounts have been reconciled. This is the first month that I was able to include projections for the general fund, and will continue to do so for the remainder of the school year. Projecting that revenues and expenditures are right on target where we ended up last year. The purchasing model in the accounting system has been set up to end for most users effective Good Friday. Any additional requests would need Mr. Hoteling or Dr. Watson's approval. And that is all I have to report at this time.
Okay, thank you. Any questions from anybody? Budget discussion draft number 2. Oh, look at Mr. Carmelo's going to speak.
Yes.
Yep.
Thank you. And actually, although we put some of the detail from last time, remember we had a budget discussion in between draft 1 and draft 2. So really, almost all of this information was shared last time. We put some numbers to it, but it'll be quick because we're still really in a holding pattern waiting for the state. We have the one-house budgets that came out right before our last discussion, so we can talk about them a little bit, but really until that final state budget is approved and we get our final runs and see where our money is, we really at this point, have to wait for that to happen. So, well, let's get to it. Tri-City School District will provide a strong educational and social foundation to graduate all students college and career ready. You've heard me say it every time. That's what we're doing every single day, trying to make that a reality for every one of our students. And this budget, when we're developing our budget, we're trying to put one together that will allow that to happen. I don't have to read that, that's the same slide. Just always want to leave it in there because we are so proud of everything that's going on. And so I don't want to lose sight of the great things that are going on in every single school and all classrooms. How do we keep that momentum going? How do we do it in the most fiscally responsible way? And how do we do it in a season that has probably been our most difficult one in maybe 6-7 years, maybe longer. We're always balancing those two lenses, right? We're trying to be educationally sound. We're trying to figure out what every student needs to be successful. We're trying to make that mission statement that I just had up there a reality, but we're also doing it and being mindful of our taxpayers, trying to be good stewards of the taxpayers' money, trying to make sure we're doing some long-term planning so that we don't put our district in any kind of trouble going forward. There's the tax cap that I put before. Again, the last 4 years have been amazing. Able to add the things we've added, being able to maintain the progress and sustain the progress that we've had, all the successes we've had, and we've done it with 0% tax levy increase over the last 4 years. We haven't increased that tax levy since the 2021 school year. Really, really proud of that. That's our draft 1 budget that we did about a month ago with a deficit of 4.1. Remember, that includes a 0% tax levy increase. That includes all the positions that are in the current budget, and we've made some adjustments since then. So these are the things we talked about at the last discussion. And the first line is the key, right? We've reduced, so Cabinet and I talked, Adam, Donna, and Imran, and we actually spent close to 3 hours going through all of the positions in our budget, all of the things we've added over the last several years, both with the federal money and in our, remember we also got our full phase-in of the foundation aid, so we've been getting good foundation aid increases over the last 3 years as well, and so we've added some positions. So we looked at all of that, and last year we talked about being conservative and strategic with our choices, and we have been. We talked about starting a nutrition plan last year, and we've done that. And so most of these are based on things that are currently unfilled, and so we'll leave them like that. But we got a couple other things. So we got 4 elementary sections that we're recommending reduced. That's based on class sizes. Our class sizes are awesome, and I thank the board every time I talk about this. You've allowed us to keep, especially since COVID, you've allowed us to keep class sizes that have really been a positive impact on student achievement and student growth, because the ratio of teacher to student has just been so fantastic. Even with those 4 sections being reduced, it's actually 3 at Carroll Hill and 1 at School 2 is our plan right now. Those sections for those grade levels are still only 18 or below. So you can do the math to see where they are currently. Sabina here, she'd never like me to say that out loud. We also are going to have 4 co-teach positions. Those co-teach positions are the ones we added during COVID. They've been a real success for us. Remember, the co-teachers, there are always special ed co-teachers in every school in New York State and across the country, right? Those are based on student IEPs. These are just co-teach positions that we created after COVID to help with the learning gap that happened when kids weren't here in school for 1.5 years or 2 years, depending. And that's really 2 teachers in every room. So again, it really helps the targeted instruction. It helps kids get more attention in the classroom, and they've really been positive. And we still have several left. Remember last year we called it a bonus year. We were able to move some of those federal grant positions into the fund using some of the foundation aid and using some of the other grants. So we have room, and we'll still have a bunch, but we have room, I think, for 4 co-teach positions. One of them was already unfilled, 2 of them I think were already unfilled, and 2 we're hoping to get by attrition. On the agenda tonight is a TTA MOA for retirement incentive. That retirement incentive is very targeted. It's only for elementary classroom teachers because that's where our bubble is, and so if we can get a few there, that'll help with the attrition plan. And then every year, just like throughout this year, there's a certain number of teachers who just leave the profession or leave for another district or for other reasons. So we're confident that those 4 co-teach positions also will be through attrition, at least for now. 2 special ed positions right now, had several meetings with Donna Fitz, and those are unfilled, and we're going to be able to meet the needs of kids the way we're doing it this year without filling those positions. 1 instructional coach who was left recently for another school district. We had 2 schools. We have 2 in every school. We had 2 schools, School 2 in Carroll Hill, that we're splitting a third as an extra coach that we added during the last couple of years. And she left, and so we will not be filling that. We'll go back to 2 in each of those buildings. And then some creative stuff, and this is the kind of stuff that Mr. Hoteling, Donna Fitz, Dr. Watson are all really great at. When we met and we're going through each item, each line, we have 3 social workers that are current. Remember all the social workers that we added during COVID. Again, as kids came back, the mental health situation was really rough for some of those kids, and so we have social workers. I think I said last time, 3, 4, not necessarily social workers, but social emotional staff, 3 or 4, sometimes more in every building. So we're really, and our kids need it, and so instead of, at some point we'll probably reduce that, but at this point we're taking 3 of them, instead of reducing them, we're just switching the funding source. So we have our IDA grant, and Fitz has some carryover money that she's able to carry them through next year, taking them out of the general fund and moving them into that grant. So just kind of a creative way to save those jobs. We've done that before. Remember a couple years ago we saved a couple of custodians by paying them out of the lunch fund, which you're allowed to do because they spend so much time cleaning in the cafeteria. So that kind of idea, yeah.
Where does the IDA grant initiate from? Is that a federal government
It is.
grant? Okay. So that comes with its own risks?
Yeah, I don't think the money is at risk right now. The Department of Education at the federal level is certainly at risk. But I think everything I've read, and we will certainly keep an eye on it, it's a great question, but everything I've read is the title money that comes from them and the IDA money that comes from them is already earmarked and not really at risk. Now maybe going forward, it's already in for next year, maybe after that, there'll be some. If they end up no title money and no IDA money, we have more to worry about than those 3 so far.
I was just going to say, I don't know when they
But yeah, it's a great point. Those positions add up to a little less than 1.3 million. And don't forget, right, we're talking about the attrition plan. I just want to make sure we got it on there. Any open positions from now until the end of next school year will be thoroughly reviewed, thoroughly analyzed. I've already mentioned it to the administration. If we lose, we lost a half dozen or so teachers during the year. Again, it happens for a variety of reasons, but if we lose a 4th grade teacher next year, for whatever reason, they go to another district, the first place we'll look is internal. If we still have co-teachers, one of them can go there, or moving other things around. We are not going to just replace positions without doing a thorough, comprehensive review of that position. It'll be a strict attrition plan, strict in that we will definitely be looking and keeping the board involved on all of that as it goes along. And remember why that is. I'll talk about it again at the end, but you have to use some reserves to close the gap that we still have. And when you're using one-time revenues for recurring costs, you've got to make sure you're doing something to lower those costs the following year. So that's what that attrition plan will be doing. So given that 1.276975, that changes our expenditures from draft 1, and now our deficit is down to, it's still Still significant, but it's down to 2.8 million. Now remember, we have 3 ways right now to close it, and we'll talk about all 3, but if we don't close it with those 3, then we got to go back to that list. That's 14 positions we've cut with really no layoffs at this point, no budgetary layoffs. If we don't like those 3, the idea of the revenues, the tax levy, and reserves combining to 2.8, we would have to go and go to the next round of positions that we would have to cut. You know, we have another group that, you know, the more cuts you make, eventually you hit student impact. And we're comfortable with these 14 and feel like we can do that without really impacting anything we're doing instructionally or programmatically or student achievement or student growth wise. But the more you cut, the harder that is to guarantee. So that 2.8, so the first thing is budget revenues. Right now, you know, we're at the 2% minimum. That was the governor executive budget that came out in January. The Senate and Assembly One House bills both have added to that. So the Senate added $680 million to the governor's number, and the Assembly 569. The Senate made the minimum increase for all districts 3, and the Assembly made it 2.9. It helps us, but we talked about this before. You know, if you're giving everybody 3 and 2.9, then you're not really taking into account, remember the letter, the advocacy letter that we did, and those kinds of things. Like there's districts that were thrilled with 2, and then you're giving everybody 3. I mean, I'll take it because it'll help us, but I was hoping that you know, they listened a little more. And maybe they did, because the Assembly one, if you see the change to the foundation aid formula, Assemblyman McDonald, who came and spoke to us, is convinced that that last one on there, the update of the income wealth index, is going to help us. Until we see the runs, it's just hard to tell, because what that does is it lowers the baseline of what's considered poor. Is that how kind of? There's not going to be a minimum where the minimum is lower.
The floor on the income wealth index is 0.65. We are at the floor. So if they lower that number, districts that actually calculate to a lesser number will get more money. It's kind of that simple.
Yeah.
So your income wealth index, and there's a range.
But it'll add more districts than just us. So,
Right. So we don't.
So
know
we don't know how much.
Everybody. So we don't know how we're going to be affected,
Right.
and they don't do state runs until really the end.
So John McDonald is convinced that's gonna push some more money to us. We'll hope he's right. So there's a chance that our 1.2 million right now, the revenue that we got from the governor's budget at 2%, if we can get the Senate or Assembly's number 3 or almost 3, that's another 600,000 right there. If Assemblyman McDonald is right, and there's another few 100,000 because of the income wealth, you know, we're getting on our way, right? But even if it's just the 600, let's say it's that, that takes that 2.8 to 2.2. We then talked about this a little bit last time, and that's the tax levy percent options. Right now, the draft that has a 2.8 is assuming 0% again, tax levy. I've been saying all along, at some point we're going to have to stop putting the zeros. I know people love them, and I know the taxpayers certainly love them. It hurts us the following year, as Donnie pointed out last time, because your baseline is now a lower amount, right? That tax levy that we've used has been the same for 4 years. So we leave money on the table when we do it, although I know it's a good thing and we've been doing it intentionally. But at some point, we're going to have to sell to the taxpayers that it's worth some of these numbers. Now the cap, maybe not. I think it's a good optics to be below that for sure, so I'm not recommending the 257. We talked about 2% last time, and we don't have to decide this right now until we get a final state budget, but we really do have to start thinking about it. We had a little bit of discussion last time. If we got 600 more for the revenue from the state, and you know, if we're doing 2%, that's another 750. That's where the reserves is, you know, 1.5, and we're done, and we can be done with our draft 3 and be done with the budget. If you don't like 2%, if it's 1.5, well then we just got to find another, the difference between 750, 85, 69, you know, another 180,000 And where do we find that? Do we go get a couple more positions to reduce? If we got 200,000 more in revenue, do we knock the reserves down that we're using? You know, all of those things are one puzzle of the same pot, so we just gotta figure it out.
Why don't we start talking about it now?
Sure. Last time you said 2% was no good.
Okay,
That's why I didn't want to
Okay,
do
right,
it.
but we're not gonna come up with a reason why we should have 2%. I think, because if we wait till the last minute to start talking about it, I think we're not gonna come up with, you know, a reasonable answer.
Yeah, and Tom just made a point, it doesn't have to be one of these, you can go in between, you know, you just said 175, you can go intermediate kind of better.
To the people,
Oh, you mean staying away from, because I think at one point, didn't we do a 1.99 one?
Yeah.
Did you?
Actually, asked Adam, I said, you wanna do like a
Adam-
car
Adam
dealer's
did
doing,
one.
maybe
I think
when we
Tom-
like,
You and I were on the road.
yeah, we get one.
That was
Sounds like
like
you better-
400 years ago.
Yeah, it's right here. We did 299, and then we did 199, yep.
Yeah.
The last time we did it was 199.
2020.
Well, we did, and then we did 2010, so.
Yeah, let's, you know,
I mean, if these guys will, it'll make their jobs a little easier, not that we like making your job any easier than you got it, but, I mean, it would make more sense if they could go in with a more positive number, rather than guessing at it. I don't know, I'm the only one talking here, somebody else talk.
I guess we'd
Tell me
have
how
to
you
just
feel.
know, when the time comes, if we end where we are right now, I mean, 175 probably would work. If you go too low, then we gotta probably just, we just probably have to get more positions, right?
Well, when I said somebody else talk, I didn't mean any.
What did you say?
She said,
What did you say?
I said, when I said somebody else talk, I didn't mean you,
Oh.
I meant us.
I'm figuring it out right now, what that
Yeah, he's figuring
Okay.
Want that number?
I understand the
I can
concept.
figure it out for him.
Yeah, I mean,
525.
It's easier to sell to the people.
It'd be 525 a month. Oh, he's gonna figure out the actual revenue?
Yeah.
It'll be $5.25 a month for the average home.
Everything you're quiet. How do you feel? I mean,
If there's no more state money, if there's no more state money,
There's no more.
then, you know, we gotta come up with 500,000 to 600,000 in other cuts. If there's no more
If you
state
go
money.
1.7,
Oh,
if
there's
you
no
go
one.
1.75.
I mean, none of us want to see taxes.
It
It just
Yeah.
depends on where that
Yeah.
ends up.
Yeah, which is why I said we can wait, but, so that, what Adam's saying is if there's no more state money, like if we're at the governor's number and she doesn't take, I mean, usually there's some give and take. But if the Senate Assembly just gets knocked out and we stay at 1.2, then, yeah, that number is still 2.8, so even with 1.5 in reserves, we're already gonna have to come up with 5 or 600,000.
That's where it's at right now.
Yeah.
So if it goes to 3%, then that 600 goes away. And then you're essentially good with a 1.75, 1.5 million in reserves.
Right, okay,
Yeah.
I got you. So if we get another 600,000, then the 1.75 will cover us with the 1.5. So it's really gonna depend on those state revenues.
Matt?
But if it's 175, are people, you think the community is gonna be, are you guys okay with it first? And then do you think the community is gonna be?
I think it's an easier sell for us to talk about why and what we're going to do to keep it at 175.
Yeah.
And we could say, you know, we're keeping the program, we're not taking anything away from them except 1.75. I mean, it only
Yeah,
taking money.
and well, as we go around to the different community groups and the different parent groups, we'll talk about those positions that we're cutting. We really didn't want to get too much further than that because it really would affect kids.
And you just tell them what the bottom line is monthly,
Yeah.
you know, that's how it got the last couple of times.
Yes, right,
And they haven't had an increase in 4 years.
right.
Yeah, oh, that's another good point, yeah.
You know,
So
I
do you
mean,
think people will be okay with this?
I do, but I think unlike most budget years, what's happening this year is federal government is cutting money off midstream that's going to agencies. So unlike most years where we end up in between the two, what's happened in the interim is I know at Oasis, we just got a $90 million cut. OMH has one, DOH has, so the agencies are, everyone's going back to the well this year with federal cuts, so it might be harder to
So we might
get.
be closer to the governor's numbers.
Yeah.
That's what you're afraid of too,
I'm
right?
afraid of that and stock market bonuses where they ended up with a bad couple of weeks because they usually come in this month. We just don't know. But I mean, the target, you know, I feel like you guys can set a target and then we're gonna know, hopefully, before the next meeting. And then there's just got to be a lot of discussion at the next meeting, I think.
Yeah, so our draft three is scheduled for April 9th. That's the other thing, if cell phones are not here, it doesn't really affect our budget, and we're already doing our cell phone ban, but the governor is really, really stuck on that. And we were at a meeting on Friday with this whole lobbyist, but she works for Questar, and she said the governor is saying already she'll have it be a late budget if the Assembly and Senate don't agree with her cell phone policy. So, they're going to fight over that a little bit. Now, she might just be posturing, that happens a lot, right? But she is set on having that cell phone thing go through. So hopefully by April 9th, we have some final runs that we can really have some discussions, or else we'll have to figure out what to do as far as making our decision. So if the revenues are closer to the governors, then we're going to have to go back to the drawing board. We do have another round of positions that we would say next come, so we would bring those to you. But again, at that point, we probably would need 175 at the minimum. And then with the reserves, and I just wanted to put it one more time, non-recurring revenue really should not be used. But we're doing it with the understanding that we're going to cut the expenses in the following year with our attrition plan. I don't think Adam's going to go over the 1.5. Is that right, Adam? Sorry? We have to go over the 1.5, right?
Listen, the board can make whatever they think.
That's not what he said to me.
Oh.
I can be nervous.
Yeah, you can be nervous for a year or two. So it's really those three things, though. It's revenues from the state, it's tax levy, where it's revenues from the taxpayers, and then it's some reserves that are using. Those three right now have to combine to 2.8. If we get more revenues, then obviously the second two, more revenues from the state, then obviously the second two can be a little bit less. We're going to monitor that state budget process, and we have meetings regularly. We're talking to Senator McDonald. Joelle, you've been great during this process, so any information you get, I appreciate you always sending it, it's great. We continue our advocacy, and we have already continued to review and analyze and everything we've got. So we'll get there. This has been a hard one. We've had 3 or 4 really good years where we haven't had to do any of this. So, but we'll do it, and we'll do it together. Good. Thank you.
Thank you, Mr. Carmelo. Motion on the floor for approval of minutes, March 12, 2025.
Second?
Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Superintendent recommendation, human resources, staff matters, unclassified and classified. Under unclassified, motion on the floor for consent agenda items 1 through 8.
Second?
Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Under classified, motion on the floor for consent agenda items 1 through 5.
Second?
Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Under superintendent recommendation programs, motion on the floor for consent agenda items 1 and 2.
Second?
Discussion. Sorry. Are you, Tom, did you say something? Okay, sorry. Well, this is great, we're merging, that Weinstall's merging.
Yes.
You know, adding to our sports team, so.
Yes, definitely, it's gonna be a game.
All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Superintendent recommendations, business finance. Motion on the floor for approval of item 1 as listed.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed? Under board resolutions, motion on the floor for approval of item 1 as listed.
Second.
Discussion. All those in favor? Opposed? Future board meetings, all meetings will take place at 6 p.m. April 9th, budget discussion draft 3. April 22nd, adopt the budget. Town hall
And
budget.
that's a Tuesday, remember?
Oh, right,
Because
that's
of the BOCES meeting.
BOCES, right, well, last week we should hear, right?
No,
Oh, we just do the vote?
we just do the vote on
Okay,
Tuesday.
not
because we have to
presentation,
approve
okay.
it.
April 22nd, adopt the budget, and Josh has got his presentation. May 7th, town hall budget hearing. May 20th, budget vote. May 21st, meeting to certify vote. And Mr. Campbell's presentation. Good news. School 16 students recently painted a mural at the Troy Atrium with art teachers Ms. Bond and Ms. Mancuso. Thank you to our staff, students, and family who brought this project to life. It's not just visual arts at School 16 either. Students have been working hard to prepare the annual School 16 Talent Show, which takes place tomorrow at 6 p.m. Troy High students Taylor Case and Amal Alawadi won first place out of 66 teams in Junior Achievement Titan Challenge. As part of Mr. O'Keefe's business class, the team also received support from Megan Baker of Baker Public Relations. Congratulations to Taylor and Amal. And thank you, Mr. O'Keefe.
Very cool.
Yeah, it is. Troy, 6 Troy High artists had their work selected for this year's high school regional juried art exhibition at the Albany Center Gallery. This year's show featured 138 works chosen from more than 500 submissions across 25 school districts. Congratulations to Sophia Labarge, Kin Nang, Talia Rodriguez, Isabella Sparana, Mary Jane Colestino Vasquez, and Hannah Guinup, and I apologize for really messing up those names, who also received the Russell Sage College Department of Visual Arts and Performing Arts Award.
I'll send in, it's in the Friday report this coming Friday. All those pictures are really.
Oh, okay, great. I think some were on
They might have been
Facebook,
on
right?
Instagram. Yeah.
Only one of only 18 awards given across the region. The exhibit will be on display April 18th with a public reception on April 4th from 5 to 8 p.m. I was going to say something earlier. Oh, anybody that's, April 2nd, anybody that's going to the OC, to Questar?
Annual meeting, right?
Did they respond to you?
Yes, I've already
Okay,
RSVP'd.
because Robin reached out to me, and I said, we should be all set.
Yeah, I sent in the RSVP, Mr. Flowers, Ms. Heckman, not Tony, right, Mr. Mayo, and Ms. Pompey, as well as you, Ann.
And me,
Yeah.
Let's see. We're not going to adjourn the meeting. We motion on the floor to go back into executive session. Invited in will be Dr. Watson and Adam Hope. Good night.
Well, we're not coming back for.
We're not coming back, right, yeah. Can I have a second on that?
Second.
All those in favor? Opposed? Thank you, everybody. Have a good night.